Craft beer to me is just taking pride in the process of making the beer and actually doing it at a small enough scale where you can go through the whole process in a way that you can make it really with a lot of thought, and you're not just pushing buttons to make a machine run.
Roots really began with home brewing starting 10, 12 years ago for me, and then I got into the professional brewing business. So I've been brewing at much larger breweries.
Well, as Ken started planning for the large-scale operation, I did a lot of home brewing there in the kitchen and worked with him on the recipe building.
A few years ago, probably 3 years ago, we decided to open our own brewery, and originally we're looking out west in Montana. I used to brew out west for a while, and so we were planning on heading out that way, but we stumbled into Keysville and decided to go for it here.
In terms of going to the large scale, there's a few options. There are some schools out there that I sadly couldn't afford to attend, so instead I did an internship with a brewery in Nashville, Tennessee, Jackalope Brewing, for a couple weeks to really learn how the large-scale system works. But we had a pilot system that kind of replicated the way the large-scale process works, so it's really just size difference, not necessarily production-wise any different than working on a stovetop.
One of the biggest things that we do that we've tried to put a lot of focus into is recycling energy. In the brewing process, you bring this 500, 600 gallons of fluid to a boil. That's when hops are added, you're breaking proteins out of suspension. A number of important brewing processes are occurring there. But then you cool it down as quickly as you can to pitch the yeast into it. Well, the transition from home brewing to commercial brewing, we're still kind of in the process of. It's a significant jump to go from brewing 5 or 15 gallons to brewing 1,000 gallons at a time. The problems that you encounter, the potential risks are much more present every batch and are much more prevalent and are things that you really need to deal with in order to deliver a quality product to the market.
Governor Cuomo passed, this was 2-3 years back now, passed legislation that basically allowed a new brewery to come up that your license was a farm brewery, and you would have to use 20% New York ingredients overall, and that's going to actually go up over the next few years. In 2018 it goes to 60%, in 2022 it hits 90%, so it's really promoting both the small craft brewery and the agriculture sector at the same time. And in that bill was a lot of just advantageous things for us, including a inexpensive license that allowed us to serve pints directly to our customers. So if we had been looking at another license in another state, we would have either needed multiple licenses in order to serve pints, or some states don't even allow it if you brew the beer yourselves.
We have trivia every Wednesday, karaoke night on Fridays. We're just getting an open mic night off the ground on Saturday nights. This is the front end of the brewery. It's the public face, and we want it to be a vibrant place, an interesting scene, a good community.
Yeah. How'd it go? Good. Good night. Good crowd with half the colleges on.
What's that?
Got half the colleges on spring break. We usually fill up the other two tables with some student students.
A personal ethos of mine in terms of how to go about developing the economy of the North Country. If we're just constantly shipping our money, our dollars out of the area, we're not really growing the economy here. you know. So being able to purchase from local suppliers, having our equipment sourced locally, being a local supplier, and approaching businesses and you know, asking for their support through putting our beer on draft. You know, these are fundamental pieces, I think, of the North Country Economic Development Program.
There's a hop grower just 15 minutes north of here that we got a bunch from and went up and helped him harvest them and got a bunch of his hops, and he's just starting out, so hopefully in the future he'll be able to produce more and more and we'll be able to get more from him. And we're looking at trying to figure out grain in this area. We got some barley grown from a farm 20 minutes south of here, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it exactly. They weren't growing enough for us to send it down to a malting facility, but if we can smoke it ourselves, roast it ourselves, use it in that manner, then you know, it'll be a great way for us to use as local of ingredients as possible.
A craft brewer can bring to the table the kind of expression of local culture, you know, the illustrations on all of our designs, the maple and porter. You know, there's no way that AB could produce a beer that had maple syrup in it. There's no way that a craft brewer in Georgia is going to do that. But given our location, given, you know, who we are as the North Country, you know, that's something that we can really do, and it's interesting. It's one of our best-selling beers. So I think that that's an important aspect of beer that I think is just now beginning to be tapped into, with craft breweries opening all over the place nationwide.
We do need to be cautious though and educate people that not every beer with orange peels in it is a craft beer.
Right.
Because
Blue Moon.
right, exactly. I mean, the big breweries are putting out beers that they're trying to label as craft beer. Labatt Blue has a whole like bourbon barrel aged series kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if it's good, great, but you know, people need to know exactly what the deal is and not just buy something because it looks fancy.
The big companies have started taking notice. They have to take notice.
The style of beer, that American light lager, the Pilsner, is a very, very difficult beer to do well. The science behind brewing it at the scale that they're brewing it and getting the consistency that they have and the product quality it's remarkable.
At the same time, I think as craft brewers, we need to be careful not to present Anheuser-Busch as the enemy.
Yeah.
We're all part of the same game, and ultimately the craft brewing market wouldn't be able to see the success that it does without those large companies being there.
They're very skilled, very good at what they do. You know, I think that, and in that regard, they do a great job. So, what does, you know, a craft brewer bring to the table? You know, I think we have the flexibility to do a bunch of different types of beer, you know, looking at different flavors, different concepts, that really they can't produce at that scale.